Hey everybody, Tony D with your Hollywood hot take. Celebrities. I told you, stay out of politics. But Alyssa Milano cannot stay out of politics, and now she's paying for it. Little Miss Defund the Police called the police because she spotted what she thought was a guy with a gun roaming her neighborhood. And rather than using alternative policing methods, she decided to call the police. And it caused quite a ruckus in her little neck of the woods in LA. A bunch of police cars came, and it was a helicopter, and it turned out to just be a kid with an air rifle shooting at squirrels. I don't know why you would do that anywhere near LA. I would worry about getting shot that close to LA, but go figure. He's probably a kid of one of the rich people who lives in Alyssa Milano's neighborhood. But you look like a total hypocrite, and I think you are. Alyssa, this is why you shouldn't get involved in politics. You kind of don't know what you're talking about. Now, you wanted to defund the police. Look, I'm a libertarian. I want lots of police reforms, but you can't do it like that. You can't just arbitrarily hack off a bunch of money and say, that solves the problem. No, what you need to do, first off, is you need to take a lot of the stuff that's on the policeman's plate off his plate. Things like drugs and prostitution. Legalize it, take it off his plate, and they can be more effective enforcing the other laws that we're all worried about, like a guy running around with a gun. You could also say, you have to respect the Constitution. And what you have to understand is, if you do respect the Constitution, and it's difficult to do, it's difficult to have a balance of law and order and respecting the Constitution. It makes the officer's job that much harder. When things go south and the cops go, oh man, I would have caught this terrible criminal if only the Constitution wasn't in the way. Then that's when you don't want to cave. You got to say, well, no, we need the Constitution. But that's exactly what happened during 9/11, for instance, and during other points in our history, including the 90s, back when Clinton was in and Joe Biden passed the crime bill. That was an era where it was like, oh, we're going to do something about crime. Let's pass all this legislation that'll bypass things. Or you could have just enforced laws and the Constitution. That's what I said. But the real big story here, and I'm burying the lead, is the alternative policing that's happening in Seattle. And it's being spearheaded by an ex-pimp, believe it or not. Mayor Jenny Durkan, decided that she would hire an ex-pimp to explore alternative policing methods in Seattle. And she pays him a whopping $150,000 a year, I believe. I think it was $150,000. So that news story came out today, and it's just like, what? Why would you pay anybody that much amount of money for any job in the city government? I think the U.S. president only gets $250,000. You're going to pay an ex-pimp $150,000? For what? Oh, well, he knows the streets, and, he could talk to the gangbangers. Gangbangers understand English. Well, most of them. Maybe the Spanish ones don't. But, they speak languages we know. And you could just talk to them. It doesn't take a special person to talk to criminals. They understand things. The problem, though, is once you employ ex-criminals, you run the risk that they will just revert back to their criminal nature, which is to be super ruthless, right? How could I take advantage of this person now talking to me? Oh, this guy's getting paid $150K a year, and he could make recommendations of whether or not the police patrol passed here or not, or whether we get to talk to the cops, or they roll in here and cut down our drug operations. You run the risk of a guy like this. Maybe he's not so honest. Maybe he's shaking down all those gangbangers and saying, listen, I can make it so the cops don't come here, but it'll cost you. That's exactly what a lot of criminals would do. I'm not saying this guy's doing that, but I'm saying if you got organized crime figures in this, like mafia guys, I know exactly what they would do. They would first be eternally grateful that they had a paycheck that big, because they could funnel even more of their ill-gotten gains and and be able to spend it without the IRS getting on their backs. They would immediately start doing what I said. They'd go to all those gangs and say, "Hey, you want the cops to stop coming here? I can make it happen for a price." And they'd be cutting that deal whether they had that power or not. It's the mere prestige of working in City Hall. Yeah, they could make promises like that. "Oh yeah, I can keep the cops off your back. What, do you get arrested? Oh, here's what I could do." You know, that's what these guys would really be interested in. And I'm interested in whether or not that Ex-Pimp is doing that. I don't know if Jenny Durkan can't speak the streets, how does she know that the guy's not doing exactly that? How does she know that? I mean, if it's so foreign and alien to Jenny Durkan, it doesn't take a genius to figure out that these guys want money. These gangs are about money. They sell drugs, they make money, they shoot at each other because it's about money. It's about money. Always about money. When you're committing crime, it's about money. There's no secret to it. These guys don't have jobs. You want to help them, give them jobs. They probably won't want them because the jobs you give them are hard and they don't pay nearly as much as selling drugs. You want to get rid of that problem, legalize drugs. You legalize drugs, they can't do that anymore because, you legalize drugs, a company will be in charge of it, and they're going to ask for a resume, or they're going to ask you to have training or a college degree, and most of these guys won't have it. Puts them out of business. They won't be making money hand over fist because drugs will be cheap and legal or accessible. It won't necessarily be cheap, but they'll be accessible, and organized crime will get out of the business, and they won't have a reason for having all these drug gangs. And if there are gangs, they won't have the money anymore, so they won't have guns. Back in the day, and like way back in the day, gangs, they fought, but they tend to fight with bike chains and knives and baseball bats because they couldn't afford guns. A handful of them would have guns, but most of them didn't have guns. There wasn't any reason for it. They didn't have the money. They were all poor. and really, it was all about fighting. It was about showing, your physical prowess. Now they have guns, but they have guns mainly because they're making insane amounts of money selling drugs. And you don't have to sell drugs for long to, go from like, man, I skipped eating yesterday because I have no money to I've made $2,000 today. I mean, that's a big leap. And, the fact that Jenny Durkan is like that clueless that she would hire somebody, well, you speak the language of the streets, and I want to know that language. I want to know what it's like. It's not rocket science. Just be poor and live. Just be poor and desperate, and be desperate to do anything so you can eat, Jenny. That's all it is. And these guys commit crimes because, hey, you make more money committing crimes than selling drugs. So, secret solved. And Alyssa Milano, I think, is the same way. I don't think she understands how crime works. When you defund the police, there are still going to be 7 cop cars showing up to your call-in when you see somebody with an air rifle, but no one's going to show up to the actual shootout downtown in the poor sections of the city, because they will always protect the rich people. They protect the rich people first because they pay the taxes. Then they protect everybody else. So, I mean, you could voluntarily say, okay, let's all get together as a community and tell the cops we don't need them anymore. Good luck with that. Maybe you could talk to Jenny Durkan's ex-pimp, and maybe he would suggest something similar. Yeah, I mean, you people don't need cops, right? I mean, you're defunding the police. You should defund them here, right at your home, and not have any security whatsoever. And then we'll take the real cops and put them in the poor neighborhoods where all the crime is. Yeah, I'm sure you'll be fine, right? I mean, isn't that what you wanted?